Well, good evening to you. Great thanks for joining us. This is Sunday Express. It's 14 days to the World Cup. The Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and particularly KBC TV will be showing 38 matches and our 13 radio stations will be broadcasting all the matches. And Regina is literally on the pitch.
Tuseme. World Cup iko KBC.
World Cup iko KBC.
The only thing missing is actually the ball, right? And next time maybe I'll just challenge you to, if you can score, that is. Well, I'm the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Can you
stand
score?
No chance.
Are you sure?
You stand no chance.
Are we making a bet?
Absolutely.
It is 14 days.
So we do it on Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday.
There will be a ball.
Yes.
And you stand
right there
at that point.
And if you fail to score, what's on the line?
I know you love bets. I already have committed 10,000 to the other.
No, we can commit another 10.
No,
if you fail to score. If you fail to score.
Okay.
If you fail to score.
10,000.
10,000.
Okay.
There you have it.
That will still be fine.
World Cup people KBC indeed. So we'll wait and see if Kioria is actually going to do what he said he's going to do. I'll come appropriately dressed for that mini warm-up to the World Cup, as we say. Do save the date. 14 days to go. I'm Regina, Manyara.
And indeed, you know, let's just talk about football. If today is anything to go by, then the World Cup will be very interesting because it's been quite some action. Very unfortunate news for some big teams like Chelsea, for example, the team that I support, going 1 down to Arsenal. A very awful night for Manchester United, really losing 3-1. And indeed, you can imagine all the goals were scored by Aston Villa, but one was donated to Manchester United. But Liverpool has also won tonight, going by how things are going. So World Cup will be even more interesting than what today has been. And because you're a Manchester United fan, condolences, right? You and I are sailing in the same boat when it comes to loss. So let's deal with our losses. And talking about losses, Kenya actually loses quite a sum when it comes to matters of drug and substance abuse. Tonight, we're going to be having that conversation in regard to how we counterfeit drug abuse in the country. So do keep it right here. All right, let's have a look at the highlights. Still grounded. Passengers stranded. A stalemate between Kenya Airways management and pilots enters the second day. For climate change conversation, President William Ruto arrives in Egypt to attend the COP27 summit in Sharm el-Sheikh. We have your welfare in mind. The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua assures uniformed forces. All right, Anne Wangeshi is a sign language interpreter tonight. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Welcome to the broadcast.
And I am Regina Manyara.
The stalemate between striking Kenya Airways pilots and their employer continues after negotiations hit a snag.
Kenya Airways Chief Executive Officer Alan Kivaluka says proposals submitted by the pilots on Sunday as part of a return to work formula on Sunday after deliberations lacked meaningful concessions to their original demands.
The government maintains the strike is illegal and it will activate procedures governing industrial relations.
This as Kivaluka confirmed that 33 pilots on Sunday's duty roster who boycotted work are staring at disciplinary action, including termination.
The national carrier had given the pilots until Sunday 10:30 a.m. to resume duty. Let's have a look at the details.
So far, 12,000 passengers who had booked flights with the Kenya Airways are affected by the pilot strike, which entered the second day on Sunday.
Today we were supposed to go to Mauritius for our honeymoon, but that's going to be cancelled. So, yeah, it's all good. We'll be fine.
It was today, very early in the morning, to London, and it was cancelled. And there was no any communication. We went through the website and we saw that the trip has been cancelled.
The situation may persist. Kenya Airways Chief Executive Officer Alan Kivaluka says negotiations that were initiated by the Ministry of Labour between the two parties have not borne fruits.
We have two demands. they should return to work, because what they are currently doing is unlawful. That is our one demand. Secondly, they should stick to negotiating within their CBA. Those are the only two demands we have, and it's open, which tells you we are open to discuss anything else. Anything else that they are putting that is outside their mandate is what we want them to expunge.
Since midnight Saturday, 56 flights have been cancelled, affecting both passengers and cargo. A section of travelers have been booked in alternative airlines through the assistance of the Kenya Airways management, as others are accommodated in various hotels within Nairobi. Kilavuka dismissed claims by the Kenya Airline Pilots Association that the management has not been open to talks.
We are still open to talks, meaningful talks, but the most important thing is that these talks need to be held under the condition that they return to work.
While maintaining that the ongoing strike is illegal, KQ management says it will only hold talks on condition that pilots return to work. Already the fate of 33 pilots hangs in the balance.
So unfortunately, because of their hard stance, because they have given us their original proposals without any meaningful concessions, we therefore have a stalemate. And it leaves us no alternative but to continue with the disciplinary process that we have already initiated.
Amid the industrial action, a number of KQ flights have been operating, mostly to Mombasa, Entebbe, Uganda, and Lusaka, Zambia.
It's our pilots. It's Kenya Airways pilots who are flying. So far, we have...
Are they unionizable? That's the question.
They are CALPA members. Most of them are CALPA members, apart from maybe one or two. So most of them are CALPA members who are flying.
This even as the pilots' umbrella union, in a statement to newsrooms, maintained none of its members has reported to work, and the pilots said to be on duty are in senior management. Kamche Menza for Sunday Express.
All right, and you can imagine the number of millions being lost within the strike. And there is no end in sight, going by the statement released by Kipchumba Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary for Transport this evening.
Now, my question, Kioria, would be now to the national carrier, especially for a person who had already bought this ticket. Is KQ going to be refunding them?
You would bet that is what will happen.
But already talks on Twitter, I can see some of our viewers saying that they have KQ is not willing to actually refund the whole value of the ticket purchased. Yeah,
that's an interesting turn that we'll be focusing on in the coming week. But let's just head over to Egypt, where President William Ruto has traveled to Cairo in Egypt for the United Nations Conference of Parties on Climate Change.
The president, who is a chairperson of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, is expected to deliver Africa's statement on climate change at the convention.
The 27th conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, to be held in Cairo, Egypt, will be attended by delegates from 197 countries that are bound by the Paris Agreement. President William Ruto, who is the chairperson of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, will make a case for Kenya and Africa on the effects of climate change. In a statement to newsroom, State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said President Ruto's speech will also touch on adverse effects of drought and food insecurity in Africa. The head of state is also expected to rally countries towards implementation and honoring of commitments that have been made in the past on how to deal with greenhouse gases that cause global warming. The Paris Agreement was adopted in 2015 and seeks to limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius. Gisho Kawashira, Sunday Express.
Staying on that story, the United Nations climate talks began on Sunday with a major win for Kenya and other developing countries, following an agreement to formally include discussions on the financing of loss and damages.
Newly elected president of COP27, Sameh Shukri, told the meeting that financing of loss and damages is one of the issues to be discussed by members in the coming days.
Kenya was one of the countries pushing for a formal discussion on the matter that has divided the rich and the developing nations Nations. As O'Brien Kimani now reports.
One of the most striking ironies of the COP27 is the fact that more than 140 world leaders will be flown using their green gas emitting private jets, just like the one that is just zooming off. And they'll be coming here to discuss on how to reduce green gas emission in a bid to save Mother Earth. The year 2022 has laid bare the urgency needed to address climate change. From devastating floods in Pakistan and deadly heat waves in Europe to catastrophic wildfires in the United States, nature is getting wilder and more lethal. Unfortunately, the poor are the ones on the receiving end.
We are saying this because this is the appointed moment. The time that this agenda item, that is African needs and special circumstances, and the doubling of adaptation finance issues are not on the agenda, it will never be discussed here. This will not therefore be the COP that meets the aspirations of the African people. So it's better we say it now so that they will take it into consideration and debate it and come to a decision.
Africa, which has been bearing the brunt of climate change, has teamed up with other developing countries to push the developed countries to develop mechanisms of financing damages and losses caused by climate change. This has caused a serious pushback, especially from the United States.
While successive assessment reports of IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, confirmed the sad reality of the impacts of climate change in the continent, those responsible for climate change problem have consistently blocked critical agenda items that can pull our people from the quagmire of the crisis they have little to do with.
In the past, climate funding largely focused on cutting green gas emissions in an effort to curb climate change. Members of the civil societies have urged the more than 150 world leaders to increase their funding to climate adaptation to help poor communities deal with the impact of climate change.
COP27 must deliver on ambitious plan on how to meet the current and the future needs for adaptation finance in Africa by 2025 and beyond, and should agree on a dedicated and ambitious global adaptation finance goal without further delay.
And as delegates settle down to discuss matters climate change, the next 14 days will be critical for Mother Earth. Experts are now saying that countries must work out on how to make good on existing pledges, while at the same time formulating new ones.
Now we'll be keeping tabs on what is happening down in Egypt for that COP27, giving ourselves as Kenya, we're dealing with an issue of drought, and government has been saying that it needs everybody on board, including the private sector, to mitigate on the effects. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has assured police officers that the government is committed to delivering its promise to improve the welfare of the National Police Service officers.
Speaking during a joint Thanksgiving service of the disciplined forces at the Holy Family Basilica, the Deputy President said the government is putting in place a task force to spearhead the process, which would soon be unveiled by President Dr. William Ruto.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki were at the Holy Family Basilica in Nairobi to attend a joint Thanksgiving service for uniformed discipline services.
We give you thanks and beseech your mercy.
The second in command said a task force will soon be unveiled to review terms of service and conditions of police officers.
That task force will follow the bottom-up approach. It will start listening to the constables. Then it will listen to the corporals. Then the sergeants, the senior sergeant, the inspector, all the way to the Inspector General of Police. The same will happen in the prison service. The same will happen in all the other disciplined services that we have.
During the mass presided over by Archbishop of Nairobi Metropolitan, the Most Reverend Philip Anyolo, Gachagua said that a task force will organize forums, receive submissions from police officers, as well as citizens before making final proposals to the president.
But I'm sure at the end of it all, we'll get good recommendations and we shall be able to look afresh on your terms so that we pay you well, we get you the necessary allowances, we look at your insurance, we look at the risk allowance, we look at your uniform, we look at all those aspects that have been disturbing our officers.
While acknowledging the sacrifice made by police officers in undertaking their duties, Gachagua warned that the Kenya Kwanza government will not tolerate officers who will accept or obey unlawful orders.
You are doing a great job. You are patriotic. You are professional. And that is why you are getting insulted when a leader was saying that we need to invite the Scotland Yard here to come and do investigations. We have professional officers who have the capacity, the capability to work here in this country.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki, while reiterating that the welfare of the officers will be guaranteed during his tenure, called for the disciplined forces to step up in the execution of their mandate to restore security in the country.
We have a job to do to deal with the 1% among us who continue to make it difficult for the 99% in terms of our own safety, the safety of our property, and also the safety of every person who is lawfully resident in our republic.
Ben Chumba, Sunday Express.
Well, we'll be taking a short break, but after that, we are also going to have a very candid conversation with none other than Susan Mawa, who is a manager, public education and advocacy at NACADA. And the conversation this evening is going to be about countering illicit drug trafficking and abuse.
And of course, that is ahead of a conference that is upcoming beginning next week, obviously bringing together heads of law from different countries to deal with issues of illicit drug trafficking and abuse. That conversation is going to happen obviously with Regina, but of course before that, more news, and then Richard Monga comes in with sports, obviously with a bloodied nose. You would guess why. We'll take a breather.
With the corner, kicking him, TT! Arriving on the near post! There's the breakthrough! It's Samuel Titi for France! And France now can sniff the World Cup final. Hernandez. Lovely flick, Matuidi. Oh, look at this from France, it's Giroud! They managed to block it. Courtois with difficulty. But France there played some sublime football. That was mesmerising. Tolisso, another save from Courtois, and it is over. Allez les Bleus, all the way to the World Cup final. Brave Belgium eliminated.
Acha nilipe. Nataka kuniambia ule mtu atavaa nguo za mogaka.
Kule.
Hizo nguo zinamefaa.
Naomba customer. Ukiangalia hapo kuna kitu unaona hapa si ya kawaida.
Sasa ni kawaida ni kienda kuwa gani? Usitifanye mtu mjeuri ati uelewi kitu yenye tunasema.
Unaongea ama ni kama unabegwa na tabareta. Unajua kitu moja, kuna kitu naitwa World Cup nakuja. Na sasa sisi taona wapi mipira kama hii kitu yenye fanyi kazi. Unajua KBC inaonesha hii mipira exclusively. Channel 1. Channel 1 naonesha mipira free. Haya.
The world's biggest sporting event is here with us. The FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. KBC Television will air live 28 selected matches, while radio will beam live all the 64 matches. We would like to bring to the attention of the public that KBC is the only station that has exclusive 2022 FIFA World Cup free-to-air FTA broadcast rights for both TV and radio in the Kenya territory, and no other media outlet. Therefore, catch all the FIFA World Cup action live and exclusive on KBC TV and radio. KBC is indeed your true sports partner.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back. You're watching Sunday Express. A section of political leaders led by Siaya Governor James Orengo has hinted that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance leader Raila Odinga may make his 6th stab at the presidency in 2027.
Orengo says the journey to Canaan, or rather Canaan if you like, is still on course and that Raila is strong enough to lead this country.
Meanwhile, the Azimio la Umoja leader has criticized the government's proposal to raise taxes from Kenyans.
Senator Aaron Cheriot has downplayed claims by Raila Odinga that the government is selective in efforts to clean up the National Police Service of rogue officers.
Badala ya kuchukua watoto wa watu kama unamshuku na kumpeleka kotini, walikuwa wanapiga risasi, wanatupa kwa mto Yala. Rais William Ruto wakati alifika ametupilia mbali kikosi hicho sababu yeye ni mtu anaamini Mungu na anajua maisha iko na dhamani.
Raila Odinga had alleged that the ongoing purge of wayward officers has been weaponized to settle political scores. Elsewhere, Laikipia East Member of Parliament Mwangi Kiunjuri has urged the Azimio la Umoja coalition to allow the president to fulfill his pledges to the people of Kenya.
Rome was not built in a single day. We are laying a foundation. It is from this foundation that all of us will have shelter. Kwa hivyo naomba tuvumilie.
Kiunjuri noted that the government of the day has only been in office for a few months and needs time to turn around the economy. Finally, Safina Party leader Jimmy Wanjigi has faulted the proposal to increase taxes. Wanjigi called for transparency in the ongoing mop-up in the National Police Service.
People talk about boy child, girl child. People are not talking about homes. The divorce rates are very high. The killings are very high. The decadence and drunkenness very high.
Meanwhile, Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi has urged Kenyans to support President William Ruto in his efforts to revamp the economy.
Hii serikali ambayo iliingia ya William Ruto wamepata nchi ikiwa mahali mbali sana ambapo kazi lazima ifanyike kwa njia tofauti.
Zainab Said, Sunday Express.
And obviously a bit of a mix-up with that story. The story that ran is obviously on a section of political leaders allied to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance having defended the ongoing purge of suspected rogue officers within the police service. Senate Majority Leader Aaron Cheriot, of course, saying the government is within its right to ensure the police operate in accordance with the law.
Now, let's talk matters of disaster management, where the National Disaster Operations Center Director, retired Colonel Charles Owiner, has urged residents living along the coastline to be on the lookout for tsunami alerts.
He spoke when he led some selected groups of participants in a tsunami preparedness drill at Nyali Beach.
Tsunami. The National Disaster Operations Center Director, retired Colonel Charles Owino, says they have been conducting such drills every 2 years along the coastal strip. Owino says there are plans to conduct them annually in response to climatic change.
Based on the way we see our preparations are, we may bring it forward even to a year. But our normal cycle is 2 years.
You cannot predict a disaster. It can happen at any time. Vile tumeambiwa na director,
within 8 hours tsunami ikifanyika katika pale bahari inaweza fika hapa in 8 hours. So we should be prepared to know what we are supposed to respond this.
Owino noted that there were challenges in accessing safety equipment during such crises and therefore called on stakeholders to work towards providing more safety jackets, boats, among other items.
It's important for them to have boats, it's important for them to have engines, of course, life jackets, and sirens and loud hailers. So those are very important for them, as well as, of course, first aid kits. Those are things that we should be able to talk between us, the Red Cross, the county government, and the national government, our senior officers like the Principal Secretary, to see what we can do for them.
Tourist Police, the Kenya Wildlife Service, and the Lifeguard have been commended for enhancing patrols and security along the beach.
For the last 3 years, we have not seen any death at all. People have been calm, people have been peaceful. Despite COVID, we've actually had a very peaceful environment. Tourists are coming in. So tunataka kuambia, let's coordinate, let's continue kushirikiana. Tuone ya kwamba kila jambo ambayo inataka kufanyika, ione kufanyika kwa njia nzuri.
For Sunday Express from Mombasa County, I am Ann Mboru.
We put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Roughly 14 days and 2 hours before the 2022 FIFA World Cup that is set to be hosted in Qatar, and obviously that is set to be brought to you live on KBC, your true sports partner. I'm Richard Munga with the latest in the world of sport. On to the top story tonight, whereby Boston Marathon champion Evans Chebet and Sharon Lekodi are the winners of the New York City Marathon. Chebet clocked 2 hours, 8 minutes and 31 seconds to win the men's race, while Lekodi crossed the finish line in 2 hours, 23 minutes and 23 seconds to bag the women's title. Meanwhile, Great North Run champion Helen Ubiri finished 6th in her marathon debut in New York.
Watch, we'll time this for them, but I think they all want to capture their own version of this race through the streets of New York City, and we are underway with the elite racing on the women's side of the 2022 chair just a couple of seasons ago. Meantime, Des Linden, who had been the leader, the American in the yellow, now been swallowed up by the rest of the field as they've debut is going to be the 2022 TCS New York City Marathon champion.
And a tough way to win on this New York City course.
And another New York Marathon debut. And a winner for the second time on U.S. soil in an Abbott World Marathon Major this year. Winner in Boston and now winner in New York, Evans Chebet.
Oh, congratulations to Lekodi and, of course, Chebet, and also to Helen Obiri, obviously her debut marathon coming in at the sixth position. Of course, that is commendable. Still in athletics, 2018 Lanes Marathon champion Robert Kipkemboi clocked 2 hours, 10 minutes and 18 seconds to win this year's Istanbul Marathon, 34 seconds shy of setting a new course record. Ethiopian trio Sechale Dalasa, Meleset Segai and Ethlemahu Sintayehu swept the podium in the women's race.
It was a highly contested race where Kipkemboi and Bahrain's Maurice Kimutai took charge of the race from the onset. The two looked comfortable until the 40-kilometer mark, when Kipkemboi increased the pace and never looked back. Kipkemboi crossed the line in 2 hours, 10 minutes and 18 seconds, with Kimutai coming in second with a time of 2 hours, 10 minutes and 27 seconds. Sila Kipto came in third with 2 hours, 11 minutes and 42 seconds. In the women's race, Kenyans faltered as Ethiopian trio Sechale Dalasa, Meleset Segai, Ethlemau Sintayeu took the first three positions. Dalasa clocked 2 hours, 25 minutes, 54 seconds to win the race ahead of Segai, who came in second, clocking 2 hours, 29 minutes and 1 second, while Sintayeu settled for third. The best placed Kenyans was Tesindiwa, who finished fourth, ahead of compatriot Judith Jerubet, who clocked 2 hours, 32 minutes and 29 seconds to finish fifth. For Sunday Express, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Well, of course, thank you, Daniel Mwendo, for that report, and of course, having an easier time pronouncing the Ethiopian names better than I did. On to other matters now. National Sevens team Shujaa beat adieu to the Hong Kong Sevens after losing the 13th place semi-final 7-10 to Uruguay. The HSBC World Rugby Sevens Series this season has more at stake than ever before, as the top 4 ranked men's and women's teams will earn Olympic qualification for Paris 2024.
Tony Omondi converted Kelvin Wekesa's try as Uruguay scored twice through Mateo Vinales and Batista Basso. Shujaa had earlier lost 9-4-3 to New Zealand in a Challenge Trophy quarterfinals. Kenya was relegated to Challenge quarterfinals after closing out their Pool D campaign without a win.
It's the dream final they wanted. The top-ranked team against the host New Zealand. That'll be so.
The Damian McGrath charges were humbled by Ireland in their opener before losing to Argentina and Canada in their second and third group matches respectively.
There as well, Kevin Wekesa running the support line on the shoulder. And
the HSBC World Rugby 7 Series has more at stake than ever before, as top 4 ranked men's and women's team will earn Olympic qualification for Paris 2024. King Orimwangi for Channel 1 Sports.
Also, Lionel Messi has suffered an injury scare just weeks away from the start of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Meanwhile, Ben Chilwell will miss the 2022 World Cup after suffering a significant injury in Chelsea's win over Dynamo Zagreb. That is on Wednesday. For those confused, Chelsea did not win today. Of course, the World Cup finals will be exclusively televised live on KBC Channel 1 and affiliate radio stations beginning on the 20th of November through to the 18th of December.
Messi will miss this weekend League One clash with Lorient as he looks to win the race to be fit in time to start for Argentina. He sits out this weekend game for PSG with inflamed Achilles tendon in an injury that has been described as a minor injury. The whole footballing world want to see Messi at the World Cup as he attempts to win the only trophy that has ever eluded him. This season has seen 17 Ballon d'Or winner bounce back from disappointing first season in Paris with an extraordinary 12 goals and 14 assists in just 18 games in all competitions. Lionel Scaloni's side boosts strong lineup with the likes of Lisandro Martinez, Cristiano Romero, Enzo Fernandez, Lautaro Martinez, Julian Alvarez, to name a few. Meanwhile, Ben Chilwell will miss 2022 World Cup after suffering significant injury in Chelsea win over Dynamo Zagreb on Wednesday. Chilwell was first off injured, with England fullback leaving Stamford Bridge on crutches just before World Cup starts. Gareth Southgate will name his England squad for the World Cup in Qatar on Thursday, with the campaign getting underway against Iran on November 21st. Elsewhere, Rain Street is to be urged of police during World Cup regarding behaviors that goes against cultural norms of Qatar but is commonplace in Europe, according to a series of secret understanding brokered between FIFA and Qatar officials. Fans should be allowed to climb on tables, drape flags over statues, and sing loud songs in public without facing interventions by police, according to summary of the agreement. The World Cup finals will be exclusively televised live on KBC Channel 1, an affiliate radio station beginning on 20th of November through the 18th of December 2022. World Cup, Eco KBC.
Once again, the hashtag to use during the World Cup period is hashtag World Cup EcoKBC. Now, elsewhere, with 14 days to go to the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, today in our player profile segment, we focus on Manuel Neuer. Manuel Peter Neuer is a German professional footballer who plays as a goalkeeper and captains both Bundesliga club Bayern Munich as well as the Germany national team. He is regarded as one of the greatest goalkeepers in the history of the sport. Well, that marks the end of the sports bulletin tonight, but just to mention a few of the matches that went down today in the English Premier League, where you had Manchester United losing 3-1 to Aston Villa. Of course, all goals scored by Aston Villa, even Man United's only goal of the match, while Chelsea lost 1-0 to the team that has never won a Champions League title, that is Arsenal, who stay top of the EPL title, of course, after briefly missing out due to Manchester City's win yesterday, a 2-1 win against Fulham. Well, that's it for me, but don't go too far. Regina Manyara is on the other side of the studio with tonight's interview. You don't want to miss that. Do have a good night. I'm Richard Munga.
Ati Makoha unasema nini?
Mimi nilikuwa tunataka namna hivi. Please. Unipatie hiyo pesa. Ndio. Mimi niende Katari kuona hiyo mpira.
Kwa hisani yako, kwa taarifa yako. Hizo pesa unaitisha Makoha mimi sina.
Bari yenyo. Makoha unaongea ni kama unataka kulia. Hapana, unataka ni nini ndugu yangu? Mimi naambia huyu anikopeshe hiyo pesa. Mimi niende Katari kuona hiyo mpira. Ananinyima.
Sasa nakupatia. Ni chakula tatununua ama ni fair? Let me tell you good news. Good news. KBC Channel 1 inakuletea mpira all the way from Qatar mpaka kwa TV yako. And what you need to do, finya remote.
Wewe wacha bwana.
Mpira.
Na unajua mimi wacha nikwambie.
Yes.
Mimi kusema ukweli. Ningefika huko. Ningeanza kupe.
Unajua, unaweza? Jaribu.
Sasa wewe ndio Ronaldo ama wewe ndio nani?
Ndugu ya Ronaldo kutoka.
Yeye.
5. Ai, kumbe anajua.
Umeona? Alafu
gara footballer.
Mpira ikianza tu.
Mpira ikianza.
Unakata ugali hivi Makoha bila unapenda kula. Na TV inaonyesha World Cup.
Ugali ndio hii? Makoha ndio huyo.
You are still watching Sunday Express. Now, before we get into a topic of discussion this evening being countering drug trafficking and abuse with none other than Susan Mawawel from Nakada, let's have a look at, 22-year-old Teresa Lemiso from Narok County, who has been crowned Miss Desert Wheel Race 2022 in a beauty pageant that attracted 17 contestants with disabilities from 8 nomadic counties. The 5th edition of the beauty contest, organized by the Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization, is held to amplify the voices of the disabled persons from nomadic counties and push for their inclusion in Kenya in key decision-making processes. Teresa hopes to use her crown to inspire more persons with disabilities to take up their rightful places in nation building.
Isiolo County hosted the 5th edition of the Miss Desert Wheel Race 2022 that seeks to identify an ambassador for the pageant for the next 1 year. 17 contestants, all with disability from the pastoral counties of Kajiado, Narok, Isiolo, Samburu, Turkana, Baringo, Tana River and Garissa showcased their runway fashion skills. In the cultural wear category, the models strutted the catwalk as cultural music played. Then followed the evening wear category and the question and answer sessions before the judges made their decision.
Give it up for 017.
This is DJ Hot Kenya. Teresa, who hails from Narok County, pledged to use her new status to speak out on matters affecting persons with disability.
I will work hard there to make sure that I also present others to the government, or even just convincing the leaders about them so that they can give them, they can be given a chance.
Despite the fact that maybe we are missing one part of the body, you can do it more in the social field. They should be happy of themselves, ensure that they are capable of doing everything. Yeah, they can also do it more better than the able ones.
Not just modeling or beauty pageant, it's also a talent. And we are also capable of doing it like other people.
Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization Chief Executive Officer Fatma Muhammad says more pageants should be held to boost the confidence of persons with disabilities.
It's an event that we use to create awareness for women and girls with disabilities, the challenges they face. We are going to see these women in their colorful dresses. We are going to see how they're gaining confidence and their self-esteem.
I will put the indigenous of Africa in a better position in the world global fraternity.
Yusufar reporting for Sunday Express in the county of Isiolo.
Indeed. Now we shift gears and we talk about countering illicit drug trafficking and abuse. With me in studio is none other than Susan Mawawel, who is a manager, public education and advocacy at Nakada. Thank you, ma'am, for your time.
Thank you.
Now let's start off with the numbers. What do the numbers from your database have to say in regard to where we are when it comes to matters of drug trafficking and abuse as a country?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And I would want to say that when we look at issues of alcohol and drug abuse, we have two main aspects that we look at. There is a prevalence that has to do with what people are, what substances, which age group is consuming more, and so on. Then we also have the supply side that deals with the quantities, what kind of substances are being trafficked. Yeah, so those are the two areas. So now when it comes to prevalence, you will find that the alcohol is the most abused substance. Number one substance, irrespective of age, whether you're talking about initiation, the young people at adolescence, using substances, the first drug is actually alcohol. If you look at even those in the working group, it's the same kind of thing. Yeah. So that followed by tobacco, then we have cat, miraa, and then we have prescription drugs. Unfortunately, that is also now one of the abuse substances. Now, when it comes to the ones that are being trafficked, then I hope you know that we also have illicit alcohol.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so there is, again, there is trafficking of that illicit alcohol. And then when it comes to now the narcotics, then cannabis becomes the first substance. And then you have heroin. And then we also have what we call the synthetic substances. Yeah. The new psychoactive substances. So basically those ones are manufactured in laboratories, but they still get trafficked. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. It's quite a mix of them. Now, in 2020, we had the Ministry of Health prepare a report that indicated that there was a spike in abuse of alcohol and drugs during the COVID period. Have the numbers gone down, especially when you talk about prevalence? I can see alcohol is still fast moving, so to speak, and most consumed. Have the numbers gone down? It's 2022.
Well, the numbers have not gone down. And I would say as NACADA, we've also, you know, we usually do 5-year surveys. And in this year, we also did the last one was 2017, so that means the 2022. So I think in the next month or so, it's going to be released, and you're going to find again, it is still the most abused substance. So it's not like it's gone down. And even before you look at the statistics, just look around. How many wines and spirits do you see? And the bars. And when people complain about noises in the bars, it's all about the drinking places. Even as we speak, I'm sure shops are already closed, but those drinking places are still open. So that actually gives you the, just even from your gut reaction, if you look at it, you will see it's the most abused. So it's not like it's gone down. But during the COVID containment period, what was happening is, because even these joints were closed, the sales moved to online. Yes. So that is why there was also a spike. Yes. Yeah.
Now let's talk about enforcement. We find ourselves in this situation, and we understand that Kenya is going to be playing host to at least 120 representatives from African states and, you know, and beyond for the 30th heads of law enforcement agencies meeting, what is being referred to as Honlia. What is the objective of this particular meeting?
Yeah, so this meeting focuses more on the supply side of things. Now, that is why you see, when we talk about law enforcement officers, agencies, so it means that we are basically now drawing more focus on the supply side. When it comes to trafficking, what is it that the continent, because this particular one is focusing on the African continent. So what is it that the various countries are experiencing? And you're going to see that there are differences. If you look at West Africa, for example, you'll find that the substances that are being trafficked may be a little bit different from what you're going to find in the Southern Africa, in the Eastern African. So you see, it is a point where they share. What is it? What are the best practices? What are some of the things that they have done? They will be reporting even in terms of seizures, because now when it comes to supply, we talk of what quantities have been seized, which substances have been seized, and so on. Yeah, and then what is it that they can do better? So it's a time of sharing. It's also a time of you know, learning from each other, and also bringing out what else can be done moving forward.
Now, as NACADA, are you satisfied with the way our local enforcement, parameters or security forces handle this issue of drug trafficking? Because it will not go remiss. We'll see, we have cases of, names, court cases that have taken too long, but we've not had as a heavy conviction, so to speak, when it comes to such. Are you okay? Are you fine with the way things are at? Or is there something that, from where you end, you can recommend?
Well, I think those are part of the things that are going to be addressed in this particular conference. because then it doesn't just talk about NACADA, but we have, when it comes to addressing the issues of drugs, it's a multi-sectoral kind of approach, because you're going to find the law enforcement officers, you're going to find judiciary, you're going to find pharmacy appointments board. Remember I've said we also have those controlled substances that then get trafficked, or sometimes they are meant for, I'll give an example. For example, we have some components that are used for production of medicines. So you see, they are controlled substances, and therefore they should not be diverted. So sometimes you may find diversion. So we have the government chemist. So there are so many people, anti-narcotics unit. So many people are involved when it comes to the supply side. So because of the many people who are involved, then you'll find sometimes, particularly with the cases, there's slow. It looks like it's a slow process. Yeah. And so I think those are some of the things that will be discussed at the conference. But now, as NACADA, we play a coordinating role. And so I would say there's progress that has been made, but there are challenges. There are challenges, particularly when you look at Kenya and the aspects of trafficking. We have a long coastal line, which is porous. And so that is why you find that even the issues of even drugs getting in would be a challenge. So those are some of the things. And then again, with the, even traffickers are very clever. They're always concealing and coming with more innovative ways of trafficking. So that is why you see seizures. They are always on the lookout. People at the airports, at the borders. So we also have people in charge of border control. So it's something which is continuous, yeah. But of course, the moment you see reports of seizures, then it means that some progress is being made.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, as NACADA, do you usually have a say in regard to this seized contraband, how it's going to be destroyed? Do you make recommendations? Are you part and parcel of that?
Well, not a direct role, yes, in the case, because you see now, like I said, when the cases actually get into courts, then there are a lot more people who are involved. So it's a multidisciplinary. So yes, NACADA plays a part, but not, like a strong one, because our strength is on the demand side of drug issues. Yeah.
I brought that up because there's been a conversation in regard to this. Once these drugs are seized, they somewhat get back into supply. There's a missing link there when it comes to matters of enforcement, and we're looking forward to have this meeting that is going to address that. Now, I want to take you back to the survey there that NACADA conducted, and this falls squarely on the demographic that is, the youth. The young people are abusing drugs and such, and one top abused is alcohol, and we're looking at marijuana and such. So what do we do at this point? How do we curtail this demand?
Well, now that is where NACADA comes strongly, because then public education is very key, because our role is more of protecting people from themselves. Because you see, when it comes to beginning to use, in the beginning it's a choice. But as somebody continues to use, then they experience problems. Then again, there is something else that needs to be done, and that has to do with the treatment and rehabilitation. So we focus a lot on preventive education, and then also providing psychosocial support. So when you talk of the young people, drug use, if you look at even as you're saying, the demographics, initiation of drug use actually begins at late childhood into adolescence. So, and that is a critical period in one's life. So that transition of childhood into adolescence, the transition from, like primary school into secondary,
And I think that's where we're having a problem.
Yeah.
So is Nakada working with this, learning institutions? Because I think it begins, is there a program that you're actually doing these sensitization programs with the learning institutions?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I would say we are doing a great deal. And one of the things that we did with Ministry of Education last year was to work on national guidelines on prevention and management of alcohol and substance use in basic education institutions. So this then is a document that helps schools on how they can manage the alcohol and drug use situations in schools. So because of that, or as a result of that, then we have reaching out, first of all, to heads of institutions so that they get to know this. We are training teachers so that they know what is it that they should do. Even we get requests to get to schools so that we also talk to the children and then the parents, because that is a critical component when it comes to preventive education. Yeah.
Now, take you back to what we're expecting to see from this meeting. Who is going to be at the meeting, and why is it important for Kenya when it comes to this issue that we're dealing with, drug trafficking and abuse? We're talking about the Honlea conference.
It's very critical. This is the 30th meeting, yeah? The last one was held 2 years ago. And of course, because of COVID, we were not able to, Kenya was not able to do this. So first of all, there's a lot of progress that Kenya has made as a country. And so it is something that puts us on a higher pedestal to be able to share what we have done. Now, the people who are going to attend the conference are drawn from all the countries in Africa, yeah, and they are heads of law enforcement agencies. And Nakada, because it is the focal point in this country, so you find that the CEO will be chairing this meeting, and so we expect quite a number of people to be attending. Yeah,
indeed, and the objectives is to just tighten the loose ends when it comes to matters of illicit drug trafficking there and abuse. Thank you very much, ma'am. Susan Mao has been our guest this evening, just putting into perspective where we are in as far as matters of drug trafficking and substance abuse, with alcohol still on the lead in as far as abuse is concerned. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time.
Thank you.
Now that puts a cap for our interview, but we're not done and dusted. What do you have to say in regard to that issue?
It's good, to hear Nakada speak about these things. The vibrancy of Nakada is needed at this point. Obviously, imagining the number of youths that are going to waste at this point because of drugs. And it's a serious problem we're dealing with. So this conference can also come in handy in terms of giving practical solutions to dealing with this problem.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Time for us now to put a cap on Sunday Express. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Have yourself a fantastic week ahead.
And I am Regina Manyara. God bless.